working through our system, to them, of course. Today, we have north of 650 million keywords that are managed through the system. 33 billion social media ads delivered to date on Facebook, and that the pace is growing every day. I think it was it was like something like 22,000 a minute last time I checked in terms of impressions on Facebook that we are publishing. Campaigns running in over 100 countries. As I said, we're international. Very important to emphasize, it's a technology-only company, so we actually provide what we refer to as the car, and our customer is the one driving the car, and that's a very big distinction between ours and I guess some of the others that are in this market. So today, 7 of the top 10 global retailers use Kenshoo to power their search and social marketing activities. 6 of the top 10 hotel groups, a bunch of the large telecoms, agency networks. We like to see that 23 of the top Fortune 50 are powered by Kenshoo, which is also an interesting metric. This is a Forrester slide, but because of the couple of hundred customers we have, we actually have our own view of what are what is the actual world of the retail sales in the world. Obviously, this talks, and John Donahoe spoke about $8 trillion within 2014 and the convergence of online commerce and commerce. This pertains to web influence commerce, talking about $1.5 trillion. Regardless, we are all clear that web influence is growing in whatever step of commerce actually taking place. And we in Kenshoo see ourselves as a piece that really facilitates and brings people closer to consumers, actually closer to touching the retail experience and going through the actual purchase. Going down one level here, and what are the key components of the life cycle of what each retailer needs? Now, I guess the majority of the people here are retailers or developers who work in one shape or form with retailers. So clearly acquiring new customers, understanding what is the marketing investment they actually need to do, minimize the churn of whatever direction they actually decide on taking, gaining operational efficiencies by doing it, so doing something that really saves time versus something that really wastes time, and staying on the cutting edge. So marketing capabilities change every day. We're specifically in the search marketing and social network advertising, and for those two areas alone, it's a moving target. Now, our business is essentially to be ahead of the curve for our collectively mutual customers, the retailers, in terms of providing the best platform that is kept well up to speed for these advertisers at any given point in time. So I'm trying to help you kind of box in or kind of understand what role we play in the stack and what it makes sense. Any questions up to here? Cool. So I'd like to ask Amit Golan, he's head of product strategy for Kenshoo, to come on stage, or actually if you want to stay down, that's also good, and walk you through what should entail a demand generation solution. Thanks.
Thanks, Ivan. Hi, guys. So a couple of quick questions. How many people in the room are developers? Cool. I've been a developer myself for quite a few years. How many are retailers? Very cool. Sorry, guys, I've never been a retailer. But I can tell you a little bit about how Kenshoo helps retailers bring buyers through the door, through the online door. All right, so as a retailer, what do you care about? You care about getting your inventory out the door. You do that when you have buyers. How do we help you automate the process of advertising what you have to offer and not worrying about that component of the business, just focusing on running your day-to-day? One component of this, and mind you, this is just a taste of what Kenshoo does. We do a lot more than that. Is inventory-driven demand generation. Essentially, and some of you may have seen this on stage yesterday, you give us a feed of your products, you give us the characteristics of each product, and we take care of the rest. So you pick the characteristics that you'd like to have appear on ads, and we will create all the permutations, we will create the ad creative that will eventually appear either on search or on social channels. And eventually, you'll see the ad on the right-hand side without any further action on your part. Now, what's interesting is that it's not just the automation of the creation process. It's also taking into account your inventory. So, for example, there's not much point in generating demand for something that you can't supply. So if your inventory is down to 0, you want to take those ads from off of the search campaigns, right? Because if I create demand and I can't supply it, it doesn't really help me. So what real-time campaigns, this is what we call this component of the offering, allows you to do is actually take into account the inventory level so that if it goes down to 0, we pause the entire campaign. It can also react to how you do your pricing. So if your inventory is low and you want to jack up prices as a result of it, right? It's 101 economics. All you need to do is change it in your own system, and it's automatically reflected on the ad. So instead of saying $200 for red Acme couch for 4 items left, it will say 2 items left, and the new price is going to be $250. Does that make sense? Cool. This is just an example of how you can benefit from it, right? So this is a top 500 internet retailer, and you can see the point in time when we unleashed real-time campaigns into their advertising campaigns, and you can see how ROI improved dramatically just by doing so, just by automating that part of the business and not having to worry about it. Another component is, okay, so I created the campaign. I have the basic ad creative and the keywords that I want to advertise out there through RTC, real-time campaigns. What do I do next? How do I expand? How do I do keyword harvesting, that's what it's called, in order to improve my campaigns and make them more targeted and better? So imagine that a user went online and instead of writing red Acme couch, they wrote wide red Acme couch. Now, it's perfectly possible that the keyword that you have right now in the campaign will actually serve an ad as a result of that. But you don't have that exact phrase in your system. However, the minute the user clicks and eventually converts, we will take note of it, and that specific query will be added into Kenshoo as a new exact phrase, a new exact keyword that will be added to the system and used to serve more customers new ads. In addition to that automated harvesting, we have other manual expansion mechanisms, both built inside the product, inside Kenshoo, as well as through integration with other systems such as Experian and Google. Some examples include translator. So if you have keywords that you want to translate to other languages so that you can target other geographies, or a thesaurus, so you can bring in synonyms, etc. All those mechanisms exist in the system to allow you to grow the campaigns from a keyword perspective. So that's campaign management, that's fine, but a big chunk of serving ads in search and social is about bids, right? There's an auction always taking place in the background, and part of the what impacts the results is actually the bids. So we have 2 different approaches that we employ in Kenshoo to automate the bidding process. One is called keyword-based bid optimization. Basically, you define a goal, and that goal could be anything. Could be the cost per acquisition, or a profit goal, or the click-through rate, and you also define constraints. So for example, I want click-through rate to go across the board be over 1%. Now, what the bidding algorithm would do is look opportunistically at each and every keyword and do its best to maximize or optimize for the goal, but by not breaching the constraints. This is great, and it always works in a perfect world where you have unlimited budgets. But once your budget is capped, and there's the opportunity cost of, okay, if I take this budget and put it on this keyword, it's taken from someplace else. That's why we also have the portfolio-based bid optimization mechanism. Basically, instead of looking at each and every keyword, we look at the entire portfolio. So you pick a portfolio, it could have hundreds of thousands of keywords, and you set the budget for that portfolio and define a goal and, again, a constraint. And then we look further back in time at historical performance of the entire portfolio, and we think about what is the setting of the bid for each and every keyword, but looking at the greater good. So it's perfectly possible that instead of maximizing a certain keyword, we would actually lower the bid, but from an overall perspective, from a holistic perspective across the portfolio, it will maximize profit or maximize the click-through rate or whatever other business goal you have set up. And this can run in an autopilot mode, so you can just launch it and forget about it, and the system will always take into account old information, process it, look at the most recent information, weight it accordingly as compared to previous information, do the forecasting, and determine the bids. Or you can have more of a hands-on approach and control what's going on. So here you can see an example of each and every one of the keywords with each and every one of the bids, and you can choose to selectively accept or reject each and every one of them. Here's an example of the kind of analysis that the system performs. So again, looking holistically at the entire portfolio, you see the curve of revenue against spend going up, and eventually it'll hit a cap, right? Because for every additional dollar, you will get less and less in return, and this is the marginal ROI. So this is the downward sloping graph over here. And that's the point behind this algorithm. Instead of looking at each and every keyword, it's looking at the portfolio and saying, if I had an extra dollar and I needed to forecast what the benefit, the marginal benefit of that dollar going into that campaign is, here's what it would be, and here's how the system will take it into account. So that's a little bit about our automated bidding. Again, I could talk about it for hours being a product guy, but I know that our time is limited. And then once you manage the campaign, once you set the bidding, it's about reporting. It's about understanding how things are managed, what's the benefit that I'm getting. Now, it's important to remember that very rarely will you have a customer with intent just going online, converting, and that's that. Usually, there are multiple touches along the customer interaction path, right? So, for example, you could get exposed to a display ad, which create awareness, or you could get exposed to an ad on Facebook, which you were a target for. And then it sits with you, and you don't do anything for several days. And then several days later, you have intent created. And then you go online. You go on Google, you go on Bing, and then you search for a certain keyword. And then several days later, you continue the research, and you go online again, and you research some more. And then maybe you get retargeted through a display, and then eventually you go on an affiliate website to eventually convert. It's important to keep in mind that each and every one of those touches along the customer interaction path probably contributed something to that final conversion. Now, we believe that in most cases, even though retailers tend to only focus on that last click, we believe that you need to look holistically across the board and attribute that conversion to the various touches. And that's why we offer various attribution models. So you could pick a linear ratio saying, you know what, I believe that the last click is the most important one, but I want to gradually grow towards it. So the attribution model will take that into account and attribute a certain weight or a certain percentage of the overall deal to the touches along the way. Or you could say, you know what, it's U-shaped. I believe the first touch and the last touch are the most important ones, and then just spread evenly in between. Or just distribute evenly across the board. Or, you know what, for me, just first or last click, that's what works. It's important to understand that in addition to being descriptive about the past, this is how the conversion got attributed. It also is normative in the sense that moving into the future, bidding will be impacted by those decisions. So it's possible that through picking one attribution model, you can realize that a certain channel is actually much, much more important than you had initially thought. And as a result of that, the bidding algorithms will take that into account and automatically increase the bids to focus more on that challenge, on that channel than in the past. Does that make sense? I'll take that as a yes. All right, so just to wrap it up, because I know Sivan wants to cover a couple more issues, this is the Kenshoo product portfolio. We have two solutions, one targeted on the high end of advertisers and agencies that serve them, called Kenshoo Enterprise, and another one is Kenshoo Local, focused more on small, medium businesses. Both of them are built on top of a product called Kenshoo Search, and in addition to that, we have another product called Kenshoo Social for managing social campaigns. All those products are built on top of a uniform platform that we call the Kenshoo Universal Platform. What this platform does, it's essentially like the X-commerce fabric, right? It is a separating layer between all the channels going into the system and the products built on top of it. And it gives uniform services to all the products, such as attribution and automated bidding and other algorithms and robustness and global support, et cetera, and reporting, et cetera, et cetera. And in addition to that, it allows Kenshoo to move much faster when building new products, because we don't have to start from scratch. We have that uniform platform that gives us a very good starting point. Now, going through the channels, you can see that we can track many of the interactions going from search and display, retargeting, social, et cetera, et cetera. We've also integrated, because the platform is completely open and flexible, we've integrated with third parties such as Clear Sailing in the area of attribution or Omniture for analytics, but it doesn't end there. It's also about bringing in the offline to online interaction into Kenshoo, and by doing so, taking those into account. So one example is if you have customers that have intent or were targeted by a social campaign, but eventually picked up the phone because it was a high-ticket item, or they were just not comfortable in general placing an order online. They picked up the phone, they placed it, they converted over the phone. We can take that information in as well. And through integration with call tracking vendors, we bring that information into Kenshoo and we optimize the keywords that drove those conversions, if that's what your business is based on. And in addition to that, we integrate with CRM platforms such as NetSuite or Salesforce and take that information into account as well, so that you have an end-to-end view, a true north kind of perspective on your online digital marketing spend. Any questions? All right. Sure.
Can you hold on?
Just a second, sorry. Go get the mic.
Sorry.
My question was, how do you automatically generate the ad copy, the text that goes into those ads?
So it's a permutation. You're specifically talking about the feature of real-time campaigns that allows those ads to be automatically generated. It's a permutation across all the various characteristics that you decide are important for that ad. So if you have the price, and you have the color, and you have the name of the item, and your brand name, and you decide that they are all important, then we will mix and match and create various permutations, and each permutation will be a different ad copy. And then the ones that perform better will emerge as the winners and will eventually display more often.
So I have a question about negative keywords. So let's say I'm selling Tesla coins and it's doing pretty well, but then I'm seeing a lot of traffic for people searching for Tesla car, which is useless for me. What do you guys do for that?
So you can actually define negative keywords, both at the AdWords and at the campaign level, so that you don't get the traffic that you don't want and you focus only on the traffic and campaigns and conversions that you care about. Yeah. just a minute.
I'm thinking about small business, and I'm looking at Kenshoo Local. How turnkey of a solution is that for, and also what is the size of a small business for you for that product?
Sivan, would you like to take it?
Is the mic here on? So Kenshoo Local today is a platform essentially geared up for high volumes of small businesses. So how turnkey is it? For example, if an agency that deals with 250 car dealers, then it's pretty turnkey. You come in, you get access to all the AdWord counts of these activities, and automatically this all gets uploaded to the system, and you start essentially using it as a system that allows you to interface very easily and simply with all 250 accounts. Take it to 25,000 accounts or 3,700 hotels internationally, or whichever way you want to slice that. It allows you to work this in a unified workspace versus all these search engines, and now also onto Facebook.
Okay, one more question about where do we get the keywords if you use the product feed? It's over here, so.
I'm sorry, I'm still looking.
Yeah, over here. Where do you get the keywords if you use a product feed for generating, let's say, 1 million ads for 1 million products?
So the answer, I believe, is similar to what I mentioned before. If you have the product feed, let's say in Google Merchant Center, for example, right? So we'll connect to that, and we'll bring it in, and we'll create the permutations. Of course, you have the ability to generate those yourselves, or you can create them in an Excel and also input them into the system. So there are various other means of creating ad copy that I didn't cover.
Keywords. Ad copy and keywords.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Amit. So we're almost done. The last part here is about taking everything that Amit talked about and seeing how it's actually being leveraged for the X.Commerce fabric. So, what's the idea here? We've been working for quite a few months now with the X.Commerce team to build the right connection and integration to be able to bubble up and reflect that kind of technology into the fabric. So bringing what we refer to as enterprise class demand generation tools for retailers in a simple way to use for the merchants in this case. So you've been hearing a lot, and I guess you know maybe even more than me about the fabric if you've been really developing to it or just trying to look into it. But essentially, the way it is today is that we have created an extension to speak directly with the fabric. We are using currently the front end, which is actually a Magento extension, to represent the way components of Kenshoo's capabilities are reflected. So they're reflected today within a Magento UI. That's the first stage. It may actually have different permutations looking into the future, but right now we try to minimize the permutative angle of it and make something that's more reflected in the consistent UI. Essentially, this is how it looks. This is what the workflow looks like. When the bottom part is the interesting one, where you can actually choose different combinations of where you want to put more emphasis for the advertiser, or as an advertiser, which is called merchant in this context. You want to put more effort on raising awareness, engagement, or actual sales. Where do you want to have more of the component of the spend actually being spent and geared up towards? Filling up a few details that are relevant to be able to create the campaigns. We have to get and absorb the product feed, which is upon also the X.Fabric, fabric, to be able to plug it in, funnel it into the relevant campaigns if there are multiple campaigns, obviously depending on the size of the actual advertiser. This goes down into, this is what the product listing would actually look like as it reflects in, and on the left you can actually choose which products, if any, you would choose to advertise, and essentially those products that you choose get thrown into the application and thrown into the creation of the copy and the keywords that are going to be purchased. Eventually that will bubble up to our system that's behind all this, gets bubbled up to ads on on Google. And on Facebook, it's a little bit of a different mechanism because the ads there, for those of you who have generated them before, is actually different. It involves also having visual representation, and there's sponsored stories and all kinds of other ads that we support. So it's a little bit more complex, but for creation, but some parts of it are actually more simple because there's no real need to generate the copy. We can pull the copy directly off of the actual Facebook page of this specific advertiser, where the posts are there, and whatever is out there on that page can turn into actually a sponsored ad on Facebook. So if you have images of the product, they can either be pulled or just directly from the actual Magento store, and copy created based on things that are out there. Of course, you can also change them, but this is the vision for the automated component of it. And finally, as this again is a Magento report. It's kind of a reflection of Kenshoo reports projected into Magento. This shows the advertiser over time in as simplified way as possible to see what the trends are, how much revenue we generated off of this advertising activity, clicks, likes, CPC, whatever is relevant for that activity. Cool. That's what we had today. If there's any more questions, we'd be happy to take them. Yep, over here.
Is your solution appropriate for small e-commerce retailers? And if so, if you just have a website and you're selling products, and if so, do you also have a minimum monthly spend? So the solution through X.commerce, when it really becomes much more broadly available, will be geared up for that. What we're seeing already, all kinds of us being more new to the community, which you guys may be more a part of, is that there's all kinds of players. It's not just the vanilla retailers clicking and doing everything on his own. There's also a whole layer of service providers and all kinds of partners to these small businesses that do that. That's also a way to do it. Today, the way we work pre-X.commerce is predominantly through a service provider, some kind of aggregator who provides services for small businesses. Typically, the minimum spend to really start kicking, having the effectiveness of scale kicking into the system is about $100,000 a month of spend totally. That would entail either a few smaller retailers, or obviously the large ones spend many millions a month. So it's within that range. Once this becomes more automated, we'll actually be able to go further down as well. Yeah, right here.
I actually have 3 questions, but I start with one, which just came up. Do you think that the algorithm for optimizing the strategies and the campaigns would be much different for smaller businesses and smaller campaigns, like ones that come up with this solution you just presented here, than with the much bigger campaigns? I could imagine that.
It's a great question, and not being a mathematician, I'll do my best to answer you. So clearly, from a statistical basis, once you have the more parameters you have, or the more tests you have, the better the statistics and the much better the algorithm can work. But that's what's unique about actually working through the fabric, because if you're one small advertiser, it's limited to how far you can get. But once you're leveraging something like the fabric, and we can sit upon all the data and analyze it and actually leverage the benefit of the data to the broader volume of smaller advertisers. So that's kind of the interesting piece of it.
Okay, I go ahead with my second question, but then it's enough. Okay, I think it's all about making things easier, but what if you want to have the need for customization, and how much can you influence the strategies and the campaigns?
So the solution itself, which Amit was talking about before, which has been live for many years and is running, is actually, you can pretty much do anything you can dream of in it. And we're actually trying to all the time simplify it and bring more and more things to a lower common denominator. But the majority of our investment in general is always on the cutting edge. So our system out of the box is probably more complex and can provide you with anything you can imagine to do. So, the Expedias of the world and the Targets of the world and the Hiltons of the world are using the system today to, really take the maximum out of every cent they spend. So it's pretty, there's a lot of opportunity there. Yep, over here. Wow, that's awesome. A lot of questions.
I just wanted to, I didn't see in the list, I might have missed it. Is email in there as a traffic generator and sort of the metrics around that and the success of it? And if not, is that something you guys would contemplate looking into?
So the system, if you don't mind, I'll take it. The system is, like I said, open and flexible. So even if you don't show a channel in there or you don't show a particular provider in there, in many cases, it's relatively easy and simple to bring that information in and take it into account. So, of course, it would depend on the specific type of integration and the level of strength that you would expect from it. But in general, we've done plenty of integrations in the past. So, any other questions?
Cool. So thank you very much for coming to the session. We're around. There's also a booth. You're happy to take and entertain more discussions out there. And see you guys around the next year or whenever we meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.